The air in Black Creek, Arizona was a thick, oven-hot silence, broken only by the rattle of the ice machine at the Sinclair station. It clung to Elena's skin and settled in the back of her throat like dust. She'd been back for 4 hours and already felt the old, familiar drag, the town's insistence that nothing was ever going to change. She was parked outside the house she had inherited, a small adobe square with a roof the color of dried clay. A single, sun-bleached frame sat crookedly on the peeling porch railing. It held a picture of two kids with gap-toothed smiles, Elena and her younger brother, Leo. That picture was the reason she was here, back from the bright, demanding noise of New York City. Leo had vanished 7 years ago. The police report, filed by their parents before they packed up their grief and moved to Florida, called it a voluntary disappearance. Elena had always known better. She stepped out of the rental car, the gravel crunching a loud protest under her boots. The desert was a vast, indifferent witness to everything that happened here, including a small boy slipping away from his paper route, his bicycle left leaning against the community notice board. Inside, the house was a mausoleum of quiet memories. Her mother's macrame owl still hung in the living room, and a faded map of the Arizona Trail, marked with Leo's crayon loops, was pinned to the corkboard. Elena ran a finger over the loops, the childish, impossible plan to hike from Mexico to Utah. A week passed in a blur of dusty boxes and late-night archival searches. She visited the local sheriff, a man named Brody who'd been on the case since the beginning. "Ms. Morales," Brody said, his voice flat as the horizon. "We went over every inch of the trail he marked, every canyon, every abandoned mine shaft. He was 16. He wanted out." "He wasn't 16, Sheriff. He was 9. Brody sighed. "He would be 16, is what I meant. Look, I'm sorry about your folks. I'm sorry about Leo. But you need to let this go. It's what Black Creek does. It swallows things whole." That night, Elena drove out to the edge of town, the headlights cutting weak paths into the black. She stopped near the old community notice board. The weathered wood was chipped, but there was a faint, almost invisible scratch near the bottom corner. She got out and felt it, a child's attempt at carving. L-E-O. The next morning, an old woman named Clara, who owned the diner where Elena ate her lukewarm eggs, stopped by her table. Clara was the town's silent historian, a repository of unspoken truths. "The boy? He had a favorite place," Clara whispered, leaning in. "Up on Rattlesnake Mesa. Said he could see the whole world from up there. Used to go there when the town got too loud." Elena drove until the asphalt turned to rutted dirt, then hiked for an hour, the sun already a brutal hammer on her skull. Rattlesnake Mesa was a flat, rocky outcrop overlooking the valley. There was a small, sheltered alcove, and there, tucked into a crevice, was a small, sealed tin box. Her hands trembled as she pried it open. Inside, nestled among a few smooth river stones, was a piece of notebook paper. It was a drawing, not of the Arizona Trail, but of the mesa itself, with a jagged arrow pointing down to a dry wash, a small X marked in pencil. And, in Leo's looping 9-year-old handwriting, scrawled across the top, "The town won't look, but the desert knows." The desert had not swallowed Leo, it had been his confidant. Black Creek, convinced he'd run away, had refused to look past its own assumptions. She looked down at the wash. It was less than a mile from where the bike was found. She pulled out her phone to call Brody, but paused. The town had protected its comfortable narrative for 7 years. It was time for a new one. Elena started the descent, dust clouding around her, moving toward the X. The air was still silent, but the silence no longer felt empty. It felt like a promise. The truth, she knew, was a heavy thing, and it was waiting for her, buried under the indifference of a small American town.